didn't notice it through the cliché tropes. No lipstick on the collar, no lingering scent of a stranger's perfume. She saw it in the way Matt stopped looking her in the eye whenever he said, "I love you." Before, it was simple. He'd just say it, and it felt like a given, as solid and essential as the morning coffee. But that evening, the words sounded too polished, as if he'd been rehearsing them in the car on his way home from work. "I love you, Anne. Only you," he said. He flashed a smile that reminded her of a car salesman closing a deal on a used Ford. Convincing, but hollow. She didn't make a scene right away. At first, she tried to gaslight herself. "I'm just overthinking," she thought. "I'm stressed with work, the mortgage is looming over us, and our let's start fresh on Monday plans always fall through." But 2 days later, a notification popped up on his phone. "Thanks for yesterday." It felt effortless. That was it. No babe, no honey, no heart emojis, just effortless. The most terrifying word in the world when you're a wife. That night, she skipped the theatrics and asked him straight out, "Matt, who is Katie?" He froze, just for a second, for one single telltale heartbeat. That was all she needed to know. "It was a mistake," he said later, sitting at the kitchen island with his shoulder slumped. "A one-time thing. It just happened. I don't even know how I got there." Anne watched him, feeling neither hysteria nor tears, just a cold internal, "Yeah, right." He was using the standard script everyone uses when they're caught. "I don't know, it was an accident, I wasn't thinking." "How long?" she asked. "Just once, I swear. We grabbed drinks after the office holiday party and she just—" He caught himself, realizing that blaming her sounded pathetic. "It's on me. I'm the one who messed up. But it didn't mean anything. It wasn't love." Then what was it? An ego boost? Some midlife crisis nostalgia? "Anne," Matt reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "I love you. I want to be with you. I was a fool." She almost bought the word fool, but it felt too convenient. Labeling yourself a fool makes it sound like a lapse of judgment rather than a conscious choice. For 3 days, she walked around their suburban home, literally relearning how to breathe. She stared at their toothbrushes in the master bath, 2 of them side by side, and thought about how even the simplest things now felt like evidence of a crime scene. It's funny how the brain clings to the mundane when the foundation of your life crumbles. In the days that followed, Matt was perfect, too perfect. He brought her Starbucks in bed, did all the dishes without being asked, suggested dinners out and downtown, and said all the right things. He even bought her favorite peonies, the ones he usually forgot. Every gesture was stamped with a visible seal, "I'm fixing this." That was exactly what pissed her off the most. Because she didn't want him to fix it, she wanted him to have never betrayed her in the first place. "Let's try," he finally said. "Let's give us another chance. I'll delete her number, I'll get off social media, I'll give you all my passwords if you want. Just don't walk away from us." She was terrified. Terrified of losing her husband. Was he still the man she loved? And terrified of dismantling the life they had built together. The thought of being alone in an apartment filled with couples decor was suffocating. And, as much as she hated to admit it, she was scared of the stigma, of being a divorcee at 28. It felt like a neon sign flashing on her forehead for everyone in the suburbs to see. "Okay," she said, "let's try." The words surprised even her, but they were out there now. And that's when the real nightmare began. At first, Anne held it together. She made a sincere effort. She pretended she didn't want to check his phone every 10 minutes. She acted like she had processed the situation. She told herself, if we decided to stay together, it means no more scenes. But her mind turned into a cruel traitor. If Matt was 20 minutes late getting home from the office in Chicago, panic would rise in her chest. Again. If he smiled while reading something on his phone, A flare went off in her head. Who is it? If he put his phone face down on the nightstand, she could already hear a voice inside her whispering, "He's hiding something." The worst part was that she now held an ironclad argument that couldn't be countered. "I have every right to be suspicious. You're the one who gave me a reason." It became a weapon she used in every minor argument, a club to shut him down. And Matt took it, at first. "Anne, I swear I was just in a meeting. And it's just a meme a guy from the marketing team sent. And I was smiling because it was actually funny." She saw him grit his teeth. She saw the way he looked at her sometimes, as if he didn't even recognize her. The exhaustion was piling up, for both of them. She hated this new version of herself, suspicious, cold, and clingy. One evening, she caught herself sniffing his dress shirt while he was in the shower. A wave of self-loathing washed over her. It wasn't the shirt that disgusted her, it was herself. She never wanted to be the woman who hunts for clues. She wanted to be happy. She wanted to be effortless. She wanted to be normal. But trust doesn't have an on switch. Then, a new girl named Alexi started working at Matt's firm. He mentioned it himself, casually, as if it didn't matter. "New girl started today. Moved here from Seattle," he said over dinner. "She's in the marketing department. Real go-getter, always smiling, picks things up fast." Anne felt a chill run down her spine. In another life, she wouldn't have thought twice about it. But now, always smiling sounded like a siren wailing in the distance. "And do you talk to her?" she asked, her voice dangerously flat. Matt let out a long sigh, the sigh of a man who was already exhausted before the argument even started. "And we work together. Of course I talk to her. I'm not living in a cave." She nodded, trying her best to hide the fact that her mind was already painting pictures that made her feel sick to her stomach. The explosion happened on Saturday, over something trivial. Matt went out to the local Whole Foods for some bread and milk. He came back 40 minutes later instead of 15. In that time, Anne had already cycled through every possible scenario. Traffic, long lines, he forgot something, he's lying. He walked in, set the grocery bag on the counter, and said, "Ran into Lexi there, just a coincidence. She had a question about the new project, so I walked her through it. Just took a couple of minutes." 2 minutes? Anne didn't even raise her voice, but it was laced with steel. "You spent 40 minutes explaining a project next to the bakery aisle?"
"Anne." Matt rubbed his face, looking drained. "We were just talking. She's nervous. It's her first month, and she was asking for advice." "Of course she's nervous," Anne snapped. "And she just needs you to be the one to help her, right?" Matt looked at her as if something deep inside him had finally snapped. "Do you hear yourself?" he asked quietly. "You're taking a perfectly normal conversation and turning it into something filthy." "I'm making it filthy?" Anne let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Me? Who made things filthy first, Matt?" He clenched his fists. "I messed up, I know, but you can't keep executing me every single day." "Yes, I can, because I have to live with what you did every single day." He didn't scream. Instead, he went cold, ice cold. "Then let's just get a divorce," he said, "because living like this is impossible." Anne felt her stomach drop, a hollow sensation spreading through her chest. It wasn't because she didn't want a divorce, it was because she realized the truth. He couldn't handle the weight of what he'd done. He wanted things to go back to normal, to a world without pain, but that world was gone forever. "I don't want a divorce," she said, her voice betraying her with a slight tremor. "I just want you to be the man I thought you were." Matt didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he whispered, "I'm trying." Then he turned and walked into the bedroom. Anne didn't sleep that night. She lay there listening to the rhythm of his breathing, staring at the ceiling, wondering how quickly you can fall out of love, not with a person, but with a life where you're constantly on guard. 2 weeks later, her worst fears began to take shape. Matt started staying late at the office in the Loop more often.
There were constant late-night Zoom calls, last-minute deadlines, and urgent emails. His fuse got shorter. He was easily irritated. Yet at home, he became too perfect again. He'd bring home her favorite chocolate from Trader Joe's, suggest a movie night, and smile constantly. It felt like he was throwing a heavy blanket over something he was trying to hide. One evening, he walked through the door smiling at his phone. It wasn't a "that's a funny meme" smile. It was a soft, warm, private smile. The second he saw her, he slipped the phone into his pocket. This time, Anne didn't scream. She just asked, her voice heavy with exhaustion, "Matt, who were you texting?" "No one," he replied automatically. Too fast. In that moment, she knew. It was all happening again. The next day, she reached her limit. She opened his laptop. The password was still the same. He hadn't even bothered to change it, likely convinced that she promised not to check. The messages were sparse, filled more with subtext than words. Lexi. And there it was again, that word, effortless, making Anne's head spin all over again. She was sitting at the kitchen island when Matt walked in. "You went through my stuff?" he asked, his eyes darting to the glowing screen. "Yes," Anne said, her voice eerily calm. "And now let's skip the part where you pretend this is all about a project." Matt went pale, then let out a sharp, jagged breath. "You drove me to this," he said, his voice suddenly dripping with venom. "You put me on trial every single day. I couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of being the villain." Anne managed a bitter, hollow smile. "So your solution was to actually become the villain again?" He looked away, staring out the window at the suburban streetlights. "If I'm going to be punished anyway," he snapped, "I might as well do the crime." That sentence was the final blow. It laid everything bare. There was no remorse, only justification. He wasn't fighting for us. He was taking revenge. "Pack your bags," Anne said quietly. "This is my house, too," he shot back. "Then I'll pack mine," she replied, "and you can stay here with your effortless life." He left for the night, muttering, "I need to think." But she didn't need to wonder where he was going to do his thinking. She already knew. The end came in the most mundane way possible. She ran into them 3 days later. It wasn't planned, just a chance encounter outside a Starbucks on a crisp morning. Lexi was stunning, radiant. She was wearing a cream-colored wool coat, her hair looking like something straight out of a luxury shampoo commercial. She held her latte, looking up at Matt as if he were the best thing that had ever happened to her. Matt saw Anne and froze. Lexi stopped too, but her smile didn't fade. If anything, it sharpened. It was the look of someone who knew she had won. Anne walked toward them. Her heart was hammering against her ribs, but her stride was steady. "Anne," Matt started, his voice cracking. "Don't," she cut him off. "I'm not here for you." She turned her gaze directly to Lexi. Lexi tilted her chin up slightly, a defensive posture. We didn't mean for this." "Yes, you did," Anne said calmly. "It's just easier for you both to pretend it just happened." Lexi shrugged, her expression shifting to one of cold indifference. "He told me things were bad between you, that you were always fighting, that you were suffocating him." Anne nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "I fought, because he had already cheated on me once. I was trying to move forward, but he decided it was easier to betray me again than to handle the fallout of his first mistake." Lexi's smile faltered, the confidence beginning to drain from her face. "What does that have to do with me?" she asked. Anne took a step closer and spoke softly, almost kindly. "Don't stand there looking so smug, honey. You think I'm the problem? No, the problem is him. He chose to cheat, both times. Once a cheater, always a cheater. And when the day comes that you start to suspect him, and you will, he'll say the exact same thing to you. You drove me to this." Lexi went still. Matt flinched, opening his mouth to speak, but the words seemed to fail him. Anne turned her back on them and walked toward the subway station, toward her new life, away from the constant, exhausting surveillance. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel hollow. She felt relieved. Because there is only one thing worse than living in a marriage without trust: living in a marriage with someone who views betrayal as an option. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She was done explaining the obvious, and that was a very good place to start.